Did OpenAI just release the first agent that uses the upcoming state-of-the-art O3 model? So what is this all about? Let's find out. So just few hours before, OpenAI has released Deepresearch. So here you can see it is written, it is a new agentic capability that conducts multi-step research on internet for complex tasks. It is powered by a version of the upcoming OpenAI O3 model. So you may ask, we already have the search feature on Chatgpt website and also the search mode in DeepSeek website. So what is so different in this deep research mode? Actually, if you compare ChatGPT and DeepSeek, they just take few seconds and then they come up with a response. Whereas deep research can take up to 5 to 30 minutes to complete the task. So what does it do in this 5 to 30 minutes? Unlike the search feature in ChatGPT and DeepSeek, this model can literally create a research paper. So it does have an exceptional ability to, browse the web. But with that, it also has access to Python tools. With that, it can understand key information and also generate graphs based on what it has understood from all the research it has done. So instead of just having citations, you will actually be able to see the graphs which were there in the website, the images which are present in that website, and also generated graphs which this model will generate based on what it has understood. So how does that look in actual use case? Here you can see for a single query, ChatGPT search was used and deep research was used. As you can see, the prompt is same. The prompt is that we have to find the iOS and Android adoption rate over the 10 years in top 10 developed countries and top 10 developing countries. With that information, the model has to reason and come up with a suggestion so as to where we can launch a iOS translation app from ChatGPT. So if you ask the ChatGPT search, here you can see it gives you a list. Top 10 developed countries by GDP, top 10 developing countries by GDP. Then it gives some key insights on the overall market share in world and everything. And in just some few points, it gives you some recommendations. Whereas if you move on to deep research, here you can see instead of just mentioning the countries, giving a global market share, it has generated a table with all the key information. Here you can see United States 58% iOS market share. What is the interest in new language with respect to percentage of population? Then what has been the mobile penetration since 2013 to 23, that is the last 10 years. Here you can see in US the mobile penetration rate was 56 to 82 and there was similar percentage in Canada as well. So here it gives the reason that estimated similar to US. Then it listed the developing countries, and here you can see if you specifically talk about India, it says that within 10 years the growth has been from 5% to 46%, and it has reasoned that there is a huge jump in smartphone adoption. And although the iOS adoption is very less, but it has come into this conclusion that English is compulsory in many schools, and due to this reason there is a very strong economic motivation. 80% link English to higher income. So you can see it's not just showing you the information, but it's actually understanding and coming up with correct conclusions. So now if we talk about recommendations, here you can see GPT-4 has mentioned United States, UK and Canada in the developed countries, and China, India and Brazil in the developing countries. Even deep research comes to that conclusion, but here it has considered Japan as well. And if we talk about the developing countries, here you can see it says China, India and Brazil, but here it says Mexico and Brazil. And here if you talk about the reasoning, here you can see it says in these three countries there are more Android users, but there is more iOS adoption, so these countries are good. It does give us some insight, but if you look at the reasoning here at deep research, here you can see it says Mexico and Brazil instead of saying China, India. It specifically mentions that Latin American markets could yield strong adoption for iOS app only, especially having the motivation to learn English. It also says that China and Russia are not a very good option, whereas GPT-4o says that China is a good option. And the reason it gives is many of the Chinese phones have different operating system or a different version of the Android which doesn't have many Google apps and all of those things. And Russia, as has regulations. So here you can see the suggestions have slightly changed because of spending more time researching and getting into the actual ground truth. So if you move on to the top, here you can see various domains where this was used. So if you move on to needle in a haystack test, so this is a condition which happens to us many times. In many situations, we forget the name of the movie and we just know some scenes. So here exactly that is been asked. So here you can see the user says that they have forgot the name, but they do remember what happened in one of the episodes, and they are explaining the whole episode here. But the response that GPT-4o has given is the television series Servant, which is actually wrong. But meanwhile, deep research spent some time and came up with the correct response, that is star series counterpart, and it also mentioned this correct season and episode as well. I think this is one of the use cases which will be rare, but when there is a need to use it, it will be actually useful. And the reason why this is able to give such better answer is because the underlying model is O3 or maybe a fine-tuned version of it, but more or less it is the state of the art O3 model, and having O3 behind it absolutely dominates some of the benchmarks. So let's have a look at it. So this is humanity's last exam. Let me actually show you what is this. So here you can see, this benchmark tests the knowledge of the models, and it has 3000 challenging questions. And this benchmark actually measures the broad subject coverage of models. How much accurate and in-depth information do they have? It covers classics, ecology, mathematics, computer science, linguistic, chemistry. So this is humanity's last exam benchmark. So if you look at the scores here, you can see GPT-4 scores 3.3%, and if OpenAI O3 series would not have released, DeepSeek R1 would be the highest scoring model with 9.4% accuracy. But as you can see, O3 Mini High, which is the latest model from OpenAI, it scores 13%. But the OpenAI Deepresearch, which in other words can be said an early version of the O3 model, scores double the previous performance, that is 26.6, and it is the biggest jump in this test. So that surely does improve hopes for the upcoming O3 model. The next benchmark is GAIA Benchmark, which actually evaluates AI's performance on real world questions. And let me show you the questions. They are very hard. For example, this is just the level 1 question. See, the question is, in Nature General Scientific Reports Conference Proceedings from 2012, in the article that did not mention plasmons or plasmonics, what nano compound is studied? Do not use the prefix nano in your answer if there is one. So you can see how detailed the questions can get. If you move on to level 2 and level 3, you will see even harder and harder questions. And actually here in the right side, you can see the thinking process of this research model. It says that it is identifying standards, gathering relevant items. And here you can see there are various actions such as search action, browse action, and it can actually, generate graphs and everything, but that is not enabled. So here you can see in evaluation options, it says it is accessing potential sources like all these websites. Interestingly, here you can see it says that clicking on option 13 to view content, as if it is working like an operator. So how much of that is true, we don't know, because we know thinking process can go very wild when it comes to OpenAI models. So here actually you can see some graphs that give a very good insight in the performance of the model. So if you compare the accuracy of the model against the economic value it provides, so here you can see the tasks that are easy for this model, most probably they are the ones that don't have that much economic value or real life value, whereas the tasks which are very hard for this model, they are the ones which have very high economic value. And it's pretty much logical, because since it's a very hard task, automatically that information becomes very valuable, and that's the reason we see this correlation. But that's not the same for the estimated hours. Here you can see the estimated hours is mentioned, which a typical researcher or a human would take. So you can see for a task that takes 1 to 3 hours for a human, it is relatively an easy task, and hence the pass percentage is high. So going with that analogy, a task which take 10 hours should be the least, but that's not the case. You can see first the accuracy goes down, then it increases, then it increases. So the number of hours that a human would take and the pass percentage of the model does not correlate too much, and here you can see it is mentioned. And estimated economic value is more correlated with the pass percentage than the number of hours it would take a human. And the simple reason is that things that the models find difficult are different from what humans find difficult. So this was the DeepSeek research model. So who can use it? So it is available for the pro users from today, but next Plus and Team users will be getting it. So do we have unlimited access to this like the other models? The answer is no. Have a look at this. Pro users will just have 100 queries per month. Can you even imagine? 100 queries per month. And I do think that the reason behind is the O3 model and the level of research it is doing. So the input tokens I think will be very high, because it takes 30 minutes and goes up to 30 to, it goes up to 20 to 30 pages. But this does scare me about the release of O3 model. I don't know what pricing model they will come up with, and they are saying that Plus and Team users will be getting this, and I don't know what will be the usage. limits. But they have said that they will soon give significantly higher rate limits when they will switch to a smaller model that provides high quality results. So what's next? According to them, it says that you'll be able to connect to more specialized data sources. For example, if you have a New York Times subscription or subscription to any other news outlet, so you may be able to do a login, and this agent can do a deep research considering that articles as well. Okay guys, so this was deep research. What do you guys think about it? If you had access to it, what would you use it for? Do share me down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.